Chav Zayin Amud Aleph will begin Chav Vav Amud Beis, the new parak, B'chol Marvin. Zok the Mishnah, B'chol Marvin Mishtatim Chutz Min Hamayim Min HaMelech. You can make an Erev with any type of food, or a sheet of mavois with any type of food, except for water and salt. But all other types of food are kosher for an Erev. Rashi says we're talking over here about both Erev with Tchum and Erev Chatzeros. Taisus says that no, he argues based on the Gemara Weiter on Daf Ayin Aleph that the Aruvei Chatzeres you have to use Davka Pas. So we're talking about over here is specifically Aruvei Tchumin. That for a Tchum, person is kind of shvisa where his food is. That's where it's considered to be, where he has his food. That's where his dira, his shvisa is to be considered. A person has 2,000 amas that he can walk on Shabbos from his Mokum Shvisa, from where it's considered that his dwelling is. So if a person wants to make a Tchum, he wants to have Shvisa outside of his house, he wants to be able to walk in a certain direction, he can make a Erev, he puts his food down in a certain place before Shabbos, and from that area, from that place where his food is, he has 2,000 amas that he can walk on Shabbos. All types of food are kosher for the Erev. A sheet of mavois, a person wants to be able to carry in a mavoi, people who want to carry in a mavoi, if their house is open to chatzeres, which open to a mavoi, so the mavoi needs its own tikkun, in terms of a lechi or kaira, whatever is needed to be misaken, it to separate it from the outside street, from the Shus Rabbah. But in addition to that, just like you need Erev Chatzeres to be able to carry from a house to a Chatzer, to be able to carry from the Chatzeres to the Movi, they also have to join together and pull together food. All types of food are kosher except Maim Umelach. V'akol nikach b'kesav meiser, chutz min Maim Umelach. And it's in a similar way that food that has to be bought from the money of Meiser. So Meiser Sheni, that has to be, the produce has to be taken up to Yerushalayim to eat in Yerushalayim. If it's too far, too difficult to carry up the produce, one could be poided, and he exchanges it for money, and that money, he takes the money up to Yerushalayim and buys with that money food to be eaten in Yerushalayim. All types of food can be purchased with that money, except Maim Umelach, water and salt. And another din is, Anayd min ha-mozain muter, if a person makes an error from a mozain is muter, b'maim u'melach. He is permitted to have water and salt. Even though he made an error not to have mozain, but maim u'melach is not considered mozain, so it's muter for him to have maim u'melach. So now coming back to the Mishnah continues, coming back to the din of an Erev. Ma'arvin le-nozer b'yayin or l'Yisrael b'truma. You can make an Erev for nozer b'yayin, even though the nozer himself cannot drink the wine. It's also for him to drink the wine, and the Erev has to be food that he can drink, or that he can eat or drink. Nevertheless, you could be ma'arv with a nozer b'yayin. It's still permitted to make an Erev with a nozer for yayin. Al Yisrael b'truma, and for a Yisrael with truma. So, even though the Yisrael can't eat truma, it's still mutter. So the Gemara will discuss why is that so. Why should this be a kosher erev if they actually, in fact, can't eat or drink this food? Sumcha Saimer b'chulin. Sumcha argues. He says no. It has to be dafka with chulin. It has to be with food that they can eat, and you can't have a Yisrael cannot have an erev with truma. So, L'chayret, Sumchos should be arguing on the case of Nazir as well, and we'll see in the Gemara why he specifically argues on the case of Truma and not Nazir, but the Svar would seem to dictate that it should be the same by Nazir with Yain, and that we'll see in the Gemara. Ulakayin bebeis pras, and you can also be Ma'arev for a Kayin in a beis pras. Now, even though a Kayin cannot go into a beis kfaras, but a beis pras is only also midrabanan, and over here we do allow him to make the erev over there. Why? Because there's an eitzah. So what is a beis pras? A beis pras is that it's an area where a field, there was a kever, the field was plowed. We're concerned that perhaps the plow dug up the kever, they dug up the mess, and some of the bones were scattered around in the area of the base of pras. So therefore, it's midrabanan also to go in for a kohen to go into the base of pras. Nevertheless, there's an eitzah that you can be menapeach, blow the area in front of you to see if there's any bone, and the kohen can avoid touching, coming into contact with any etzem from the mace. So if he blows the area in front of him and checks it and sees that there's no etzem over there, then he can go in. So there is an eitzah to go into the base of pras. So therefore, you can make an erev in the base of pras. Rav Yehuda says it's even mutter in base of kvaras because he make a chatzit, so he can go in a box, and therefore he's separated from the tumah of the basic kvaras, and therefore he still has an eitzah. There's an eitzah to make it accessible to him. He can go in with that box, so therefore it's mutter even in basic kvaras. You don't learn out from a general rule. It's not all inclusive. And even in a place where it says chutz, with the exception of, it still doesn't mean that it's all inclusive. Even though there is a general rule, but it doesn't cover every possibility. So, so it says, even in a place where it says chutz, it's mashma that he's not referring to our Mishnah. Our Mishnah clearly says chutz. So it's mashma he's talking about another case where it doesn't say chutz, and he's saying you can't learn out from the klal even in a different place where it does say chutz. So if that's the case, hey chakor, the Gemara's question is, what is it referring to? Which case is it referring to? The Gemara answers Hasam Kai. It's referring to the case of Mishnah Kedusha. Kol mitzvahs, the Mishnah Kedusha says, Kol mitzvahs says Eishes man groma, anoshim chayovim, anoshim baturas. A mitzvah says Eishes man groma, men are obligated and women are pot. Ushaloy is man groma, echanoshim v'echad anoshim chayovim, but if it's not as man groma, both men and women are chayim. If it's a mitzvah that is related to time, it's time related. It has to be done in a certain time frame. Then men are chayiv. If it's mitzvah zesei, men are chayiv, women are paturas. If it's not connected to time, it's not limited by time, then they're both chayiv. So is that a rule? Is that all inclusive? Oklalahu, the whole mitzvah says hashaman grom and noshim paturas. Is that so? Aremat simcha v'hakel. Well, you have these mitzvahs. The mitzvah says man gromahu, but noshim chayova is matzah has to be eaten the first night of Pesach. So it's time related. And yet women are chayiv on that. The mitzvah of simcha, the mitzvah of having simcha in the regel, to be mesameach and yontiv. So women are chayiv, according to the one mandar al kolpanim, women are chayiv, even though it's related to time, to the regel. And hakel. And the mitzvah of hakel is also a mitzvah that by the seventh year, at the end of the seventh year, to come to the Yerushalayim, to the Beis Hamikdash, and to gather together and to hear the kriya of the Sefer Dvorim from the Melech. So it's a time-related mitzvah. And Nashim Chayovis. And for the whole mitzvah says Shaloy Zman Grova Nashim Chayovis. And conversely, if it's not time-related, you're telling me that every not time-related mitzvah of women are chayiv. All right, Talmud Torah, peer review, opinion of Ben. The mitzvah says Shaloy Zman Grova Nashim Baturas. These mitzvahs, the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, or having children, or a pidyon of ben, they're not time-related, and women do not have this mitzvah. They're not mechuyev in that. So you see from here that even though there's a klal, there's a rule, it is, you don't learn out from that. It's not all-inclusive, and even if the Mishnah says chutz, it says chutz means this and that, with the exception of so-and-so, it doesn't mean to say that these are the only exceptions. You can't learn out from it because the Tana is just mentioning in general, talking in general terms, and it's not all-inclusive even where it says chutz. We also learned another halacha that has the same characteristic. There was another rule that was set. Anything which a zav carries is tomei. Things that a zav who he's an avatuma, things that he touches are tomei. Things that he carries, even if he doesn't touch them, but they're carried by him, and even if they're not completely moved, but he carries them, they're carried on top of him, it's as if he touched it, and it becomes a rishon l'tumah. V'chol sha'zav nisa alav tor. But all things that the zav doesn't carry, but carry the zav, if he doesn't touch them, they're tor. Chutz min aroi l'mishkav v'moishet. So if he sits on, for instance, a bucket, then if he doesn't touch it, if there's a pillow on top of it, and he doesn't come into contact with the bucket, and there's pillows on top of it, it's tar. We don't say it's tummy. Chutz min aroi l'mishkav v'moishet, but things which are roi for lying on or sitting on, so chairs, couches, etc. Even if he doesn't come into direct contact with them, they become tomei and they become an avatuma. Or va'adam, or a person, if a person carries a zav, he's also tomei. So it says this rule, is that all inclusive? There's no exceptions. Va'ika merkab. There's also things which are for riding, and it also becomes tomei. So therefore, you see that it's not all inclusive. What do you mean by something what he rides on? If he's sitting directly on it, that's something he's sitting on. That's a Moshe. So what does it mean, merkav? So he says, Anan haki kamina. Ha'ika gabad uchkva. There is the upper part, the top part of the saddle. Isanya ukev tami Moshe, v'ataf is tami merkav. The part of the saddle that he sits on, so that's for sitting, so that's a tame of a Moshe. The part of it which he doesn't sit on, but it's a part of the saddle that he grasps, he holds on to, so over there, that has a tumah, that's merkav. So there are differences between the tumah of Moshe and merkav, and that's why we distinguish between the two. But on Kolpanim, what do we see from over here? El Shmami now, we see here, you see that you can't learn out from a klal, even though it says a general rule, it's not all-inclusive. And even where it says chutz, because over here it says chutz, and nevertheless, it's not all-inclusive. So now, why we're bringing this in? Because we're relating it to our Mishnah. Amar Ravina v'Item Rav Nachman Afanan Namitanina. We learned in our Mishnah, B'kol Marav Mishtatzim B'chutz Min Hamayim U'Me'ala. You can make erev and shita with any types of food and drinks except mayim and melach. V'suleka. There are no other exceptions. Va'ik Kamena Betriyos. We also exclude truffles and mushrooms. So you see again this principle. Shenemra, when it says chutz. Hakol nikach b'kesav ma'aser. The Mishnah says that you can purchase all types of foods and drinks with the money from ma'aser. Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Yosef b'chanina chad maseh erev chad maseh ma'aser. So one of the two, one learns the following halacha related to Eruvin, and the other one says it related to ma'aser. Chad maseh erev lo yishadol mayim b'fnei atzma melech b'nei b'fnei atzma. That we said that you cannot use water and salt for the eruv. That's only the water separately and the salt separately. The ein marvin. That's where it's ein marvin. Ava b'mayim melach marvin. But if you mix it together, you could be marv with it. The chad maseh and meiser. The other one learns the same principle, relates it to meiser. Leishan al mayim b'fnei asim melach b'fnei asim day and nikachim. Ava mayim melach nikachim. Ava mayim melach nikachim mikesem meiser. It's only that you can't purchase it separate, water separately and salt. But if it's mixed together, then that's a mixture that's considered to be a food that gives it more chashivas, so it's considered to be like a dip. Then you could purchase that mixture of water and salt with the money of Meiser. The one who learns it on Meiser, certainly on Erev. If it's permitted, this mixture for Meiser, certainly on Erev, as the Ritva says, because this is a Meiser is a deraisa, and certainly if you're matred by a deraisa, you certainly will be matred by a derabanan. Uman Masa Eruv Aval Meiser Loy. But the one who learns this halacha regarding Eruv, he will say on Meiser, he argues and says, no, you cannot use this mixture. You cannot use the money of Meiser to buy this mixture. Not only if they're separately my melech, even if they're mixed together. My time, and why is that? Because parabena, because as we'll see on Amud Beis, that from a klal prat, that you need something which is called a peri, the fruit, not in the strict literal sense of a fruit. It doesn't have to be an actual fruit, but it has to be something that has more chashivas. And this is not considered to be a davar chashiv. You cannot use it for kesef of meiser.